can end banditry in 2 months, while APC alleges criminal ties. On international news, Trump seeks to rebrand the Department of Defense as Department of War. And in sport, Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather agreed to fight in 2026 exhibition match. Those are our top stories. Details coming up in just a moment. First on the news, the Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN) has extended warm wishes to Muslims nationwide as they commemorate Eid al-Mawlud, marking the birth of Prophet Muhammad. In his message, CAN President Archbishop Daniel Oko highlighted the potential of Eid al-Mawlud to inspire strong bonds of unity across faiths and renewed shared hope for a just and prosperous Nigeria. He emphasized the importance of humility, compassion, justice, and devotion to God, values that transcended religious boundaries and promote a society built on peace, fairness, and mutual respect. He encouraged the Nigerians to reflect on the values exemplified by Prophet Muhammad and strive for a society anchored on peace and fairness. The CAN president urged political leaders to prioritize justice, ease the burdens of hardship on citizens, and foster policies that strengthened unity and upheld human dignity. He stressed that integrity and fairness should guide leaderships to realize Nigeria's potential for peace and prosperity. Eid al-Mawlud is celebrated on the 12th day of Rabi al-Awwal, the third month of Islamic calendar. The federal government has mourned the victims of the tragic boat accident in Boko local government area of Niger State, which reportedly claimed the lives of 30 people. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, extended the government's condolences to the families of the victims, the government, and the people of Niger State. He said the federal government, through the National Emergency Management Agency (NEMA), will provide the necessary support for the victims' families and survivors, working closely with the Niger State government to ensure prompt relief and assistance. The minister commended the Niger State government through the State Emergency Management Agency (SEMA) for its swift rescue operation, which ensured that all passengers of the ill-fated boat were accounted for. He also urged passengers to always prioritize safety when traveling to our inland waterways. Idris stated that no one should embark on boat journeys without wearing appropriate protective jackets. Safety precautions can make the difference between life and death. According to the minister, the federal government has directed the National Orientation Agency (NOA) to mount a massive nationwide sensitization campaign to raise public awareness on safety measures when using inland waterways. The wooden boat, which was reportedly carrying 138 passengers on Tuesday, capsized along the Shagunu-Dunga axis on Kenji Lake. Meanwhile, the National Emergency Management Agency (NEMA) has commenced distribution of relief items to 2025 flood victims in Abia. NEMA, in collaboration with the State Emergency Management Agency (SEMA), handed over the relief items to the representatives of the affected communities in Umuahia. The items distributed include cartons of spaghetti and macaroni. In a speech, Nnamdi Igwe, head NEMA Owerri Operations Office, said that the effort was part of the agency's response to the flood disasters affecting various communities in the state. Igwe, represented by Sunday Iweala, the search and rescue officer NEMA, said that the intervention approved by the Presidential Committee on Flood Relief and Rehabilitation was to cushion the effect of the disaster. In a remark, the Executive Secretary of SEMA, Sunday Jackson, disclosed that about 45 communities across the 17 local government areas of the state were affected by the flood disaster. President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to the education and rehabilitation of the rescued Chibok girls, approving a total of 1.85 billion naira to sustain their academic and welfare support until 2027. The Ministry of Education, in a statement, explained that the government has so far committed 1,845,277,768 naira to cover tuition fees, accommodation, vocational training, psychosocial care, medical support, and parental assistance. Education Minister Tunji Alausa noted that the government support for the Chibok girls is both a financial and moral obligation. President Tinubu showing statesmanship by prioritizing their education above partisan politics. He said this commitment is not only financial, it is moral. It represents Nigeria's pledge to turn a dark chapter in our nation's history into a story of resilience, dignity, and hope. Beyond tuition, the intervention program also provides vocational starter packs, child and parental support, surgical care, travel logistics, and national health insurance enrollment. The ministry noted that monitoring and evaluation of the girls' academic progress will continue for the next 3 years. More than a decade has passed since the abduction of 276 schoolgirls from Government Girls Secondary School Chibok in Borno State by Boko Haram insurgents in April 2014. While many escaped and were released in batches, 108 of the young women remained under the care of the federal government, with 68 enrolled at the American University of Nigeria, Yola. Although some girls have been rescued over the years, most recently Lydia Simon, freed in 2024 after 10 years in captivity, 82 remain missing. Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal has declared that he has the capacity to end banditry in the state within 2 months if given direct control over security agencies. Speaking during a live media chat with local radio stations at the government house in Gusau, Governor Lawal lamented that the major obstacle to tackling the crisis is that security operatives in Zamfara still take instructions from Abuja rather than the state government. He cited a recent incident in Shinkafi local government where dozens were killed, claiming that security forces on the ground failed to act because they were awaiting authorization from Abuja. Despite this challenge, the governor noted that his administration has been supporting security operatives with logistics and funding to aid their operations. Reacting to this, the Zamfara State Chapter of the All Progressives Congress APC has strongly criticized the governor's comments, accusing him of harboring bandits and failing to deliver on his campaign promise to end insecurity within 2 months of assuming office. In a statement by his publicity secretary Yusuf Idris, the APC said Governor Lawal's repeated claims of knowing the locations of bandits leaders without acting on the information amounted to complicity. The party accused the governor of politicizing insecurity, claiming he has failed to adequately fund the security agencies despite boasting about providing vehicles for them. The opposition also challenged Lawal to review his campaign promises, stressing that his remarks and recent remarks only highlight his failure to protect lives and property. It is now time for us to join Nkami and John from our Abuja studio for more news.
Thanks for staying with us. These are the latest developments from the nation's capital. I am Nkami John. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has launched the distribution and sales of fertilizers to farmers at half the usual cost. Speaking at the Art and Cultural Exhibition Pavilion in Garki, Abuja, Wike announced that the administration procured 550 metric tons of assorted fertilizers for distribution across the 6 area councils. He said the initiative is aimed to boost food production, stabilize prices, and support farmers during the peak of the farming season. Wike stressed that strict accountability measures are in place to ensure the fertilizers reach genuine farmers. The FCT Police Command has opened an investigation into a tragic accident near Mabuchi Bridge that claimed the lives of a couple and sparked mob violence. Police spokesperson Josephine Ade explained that three unidentified men forced their way into a Toyota Highlander near Bega Bridge, Utako, and struggled with the driver for control of the vehicle. The car lost control, struck a parked Mazda vehicle, and somersaulted into a bridge pillar, killing the couple on board. Suspected attackers were later killed in the ensuing mob action. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has sealed off illegal chemical and water packaging factories in the Damagaza district of Apo Waru, Abuja. According to Egbungunshi Godia, head of NAFDAC's Investigation and Enforcement Unit in Abuja, the factories were caught operating without approval. Inspectors discovered 88 bags of packaged water and evidence of nighttime production with fake registration numbers printed on the products. NAFDAC says investigations are ongoing and sanctions will be applied to those behind the illegal operations. Those are the stories from the nation's capital. I am Kamyang John. Thanks for staying tuned.
That's in Kamian John reporting from our Abuja studio. You're still listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll go straight to our analysis segment where I have Chukuma Okoro joining me. Mr. Okoro, thank you very much for joining us on the news.
Thank you, Solomon. Good afternoon and happy Eid al-Maulud to our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Now let's go straight to the first talking point, where the federal government is mourning the victim of a tragic boat accident in Boko local government area of Niger State, which reportedly claimed the lives of 30 people. This is one of a series of boat accidents that is becoming more like a daily occurrences. One would be expected that a country like Nigeria, with lots of water body, seeing we share boundaries with, if you can call it that, with the Atlantic Ocean, we should have some of the best water transportation, if not around the world, at least in Africa. But yet we are still like 200 years back. What's your view on that?
Well, Solomon. First off, my heart goes out to the families that lost loved ones in that unfortunate boat mishap, and at last count, bodies are still being recovered. So we don't even have a definite number of the number of people that died in that boat accident. And like you said, it's quite unfortunate that Nigeria, it is not only in the waterways that we are not harnessing our opportunities, God-given opportunities, resources, to make us a great nation. When people say that Nigeria is a great nation, I say no. Nigeria is not a great nation. Nigeria is a blessed nation. But that blessedness, we are yet to transform it into greatness, unfortunately. That is where we are now. And not just in the transport, in the waterway transportation alone. How about road transport? How about air transport? We are missing, we are lacking, and we are lagging behind in all of these things. Is there any sector that you can talk about in Nigeria that is top notch? Is it power? Is it education? Is it health? Is it economy? So Nigeria is a country that is grappling with so many difficulties. Nigeria has become a mourning nation. We are mourning 138 people that got caught, unfortunately, in an accident that could have been avoided. We are mourning people that were killed in Enugu State the other day because of an unfortunate road accident. We are mourning people that were killed the other day in parts of Niger, Borno, Kwara states. By who? By terrorists, by bandits. We are mourning people who have been kidnapped, people whose families cannot pay ransom, people whose families have paid ransom, yet those people are still killed by either kidnappers or bandits. Solomon, we are mourning communities that have been displaced from their ancestral homelands. We are mourning communities that have to pay levies for them to go to farm. We are mourning communities that have to pay levies for them to go back to that same farm and harvest.
Too many mornings to count.
Too many mornings. So Nigeria is more like we are under siege. Created by who? By ourselves. Now let's go back to the issue of the boat mishap. I see a case of shared irresponsibility. When I say shared irresponsibility, I mean it is irresponsible. Look at, and at every turn, at every opportunity, we have the federal government, we have the Federal Minister of Information, we have the Director General of the Nigerian Orientation Agency come to say, oh, Nigerian government mourns with the families. And they are quick, to give out succor, palliatives to families.
Reactionary.
Reactionary. We are not proactive. So, and on the part of individuals, how would somebody, a sane human being, get into a wooden boat that is clearly overloaded without life jackets? You see, get on board. And when something happens, you blame the federal government. Why don't you blame yourself? Yes, federal government has a share of that responsibility for not providing, when they mount life jackets and all of that, safety. They don't even provide those facilities. We have the National Inland Waterways Agency and all of that. What is their responsibility? What are they doing? How far have they developed that transportation means? Do we have life jackets? Is it even a convenient means of transportation? How about okay, that's the regulatory agencies. In your presence, boats are overloaded.
And
you do nothing. Rickety boats for that matter.
Rickety
boats for that matter. The other day, like one too many. It is not just in that community, all across the country, where you have. So it's huge. And when we talk about all of these things, and you turn it around 360 degrees, everything comes down. It boils down on the footstep of leadership. Credible. We don't have credible leadership, because if we had, people could take responsibility for their actions. We don't have people take responsibility, and unfortunately there are no consequences. So that is why the same thing happens today. You and I will come here, you will read it, I'll analyze. Next week you and I will come here again, and probably
just going in circles.
It's more like a circle show every other day. And because and when bad behavior is rewarded, it does what? It gets worse. No consequences for actions. That is the problem, Solomon. Problem of leadership. Now, when we talk about leadership, how about followership? Who gave us the leadership that we have? Is it not? I mean, they say that a society gets the leadership they deserve, and a society deserves the leadership they get. Either way, you look at it. So the problem is about, I think the people should stand up and put Nigerians, we need to put our acts together and ensure that we give ourselves credible leadership. If you don't have credible leadership, you go nowhere. There's nothing you can do as a people. If you look at countries that are doing well, it boils down to good leadership.
Now you talk about various agencies. Let's start with the National Inland Waterways. Let's use Lagos as example, where the population, obviously, it's really overwhelming, the road network we have.
Okay.
And then when you now also see that Lagos has a unique topography, for lack of better words, where, I mean, originally they will say Lagos is made up of 70% water.
Okay.
Of course, before the many government filling and
below sea level, as a matter of fact.
Do you understand? Okay. And coming to work today and see the massive hold up, and with the for so many reasons, including the many rehabilitation going on the road, and a particular place where they say, I mean, there were been different stories. There's an accident or a trailer fail or something, and the road is closed, where people had to scramble for alternative, route to go to their various destinations. And I begin to wonder, this is a state with lots of water. In a situation where we have a good water transportation, everybody won't be forcing themselves on the road.
Okay.
those going to the island will just have to use the good water transport.
Now, Solomon, what you have just said speaks to, our inability to harness opportunities and resources
and potentials,
and potentials to make our lives better. I walk through the streets of Lagos. I drive around Lagos and I see you see some channels that are unkempt,
dirty,
very dirty, and you see refuse dumped in those channels. And I think back, I travel overseas and I see these channels. You feel like stooping to take water from those channels to drink. What is responsible between the situation that we find ourselves here and what we find elsewhere? What? Leadership. Instead of making improvements, we have actually gone back. We have retrogressed. I say that in the light of the fact that as a young corps member, fresh from university, I did my youth service here in Lagos. I used to take a boat ride from mile 2 to CMS. Very comfortable. Covered, not wooden boats, so boats, managed by a certain agency at that time. And it was convenient for me because at that time, there was no third mainland bridge. So either you had to use the Kata Bridge or use the Eko Bridge. And on those occasions, people had to stay like 4, 5, 6 hours on traffic, either way, to and fro, when you're going or when you're coming back. It was huge then. Now, that waterway, I found it convenient then to move from mile 2 to CMS. And I'll just get into the island, do my business, and come back to the mainland. Solomon, I am not sure that we have that facility as we speak. So what happened?
And those were like 15, 20, 30 years ago.
No, that was about 35 years ago. So shouldn't we have...
I mean, growing up in Lagos in the 80s too, I mean, those waters were clean. Is it that suddenly the waters became dirty? Environmental
so what happened?
situation.
Why couldn't we make improvements on that? If it was serving us.
And you also talk about going abroad. And I mean, our leaders go abroad
they see these things.
I mean, some of them practically go abroad for their breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Beautiful. And
they see these
things. Instead of coming back to replicate what they see, they prefer to go there, buy homes, and rather stay there, on vacation. And when they're out of government, they just go there, stay, and when it is time for politics again, they come back here and make empty promises. So, and that is why I keep telling you that until the people learn to take their destiny into their hands, the leadership will continue to take advantage of us the way they are doing. So, in fact, as a matter of fact, I blame the people more than the leadership, because no one wants to leave his comfort zone. And when we discuss, you see, the liberty you and I take for granted or try to enjoy today was purchased for us by the actions of some people. Talk about what happened in France between 1789. Talk about what happened in Russia in 1917 and all of that. The people had to say, look, enough of all this. Talk about something that happened in 1648, the Glorious Revolution in Britain, when the people had to say, look, enough of all this. And had to take it. The Glorious Revolution wasn't bloody. They didn't have to kill anybody. They just said, look, enough of all this. And the people now started taking their liberties into their hands and say, this is what we want. This is how we want our society organized in unison. But we don't have that. What do we have? We always play our fault lines. Oh, no, don't worry. It's my brother that is in this office. Okay. Somebody says, your brother did this. The president did this. Okay. Instead of addressing what the president did, okay, so when Buhari was in government, what did you do? Does that solve the problem? It doesn't solve the problem. And so when someone else comes and he says, oh, your brother did this person did this, your Christian brother or your Muslim brother did this, and so why are you angry that my own brother is doing the same thing? Fault lines keep expanding. Every other day. That is the problem that we have here.
You also talked about taking responsibility. I mean, we're not exactly a country where our leaders take responsibility for
No,
anything.
they rather blame you for their own mistakes.
But if they are to hold someone responsible, who would they hold? The Minister of Transport? Is it just road transport? Does that include rail and water transport?
No.
Because I mean, it is interpreted like as in the Minister of Transport is just road, and then we have the aviation, which is air. So who takes charge of rail and water transportation?
Okay, now if you talk about rail, we have the NRC Railway Corporation, which is managed by that agency, is in charge of the rail lines.
Is it not under the transportation?
It's under the Transportation Ministry, just like the NILO, National Inland Waterways Agency. It's also under the Ministry of Transportation. For reasons best known to them, they had to move out aviation from transportation. At a point, I recall growing up, it was the Ministry of Transportation used to cover the three,
everything.
Sectors: air, water, and land. But now, talking about taking responsibility, I think it is the Minister of Transportation that should be held responsible. In Senate claims, the man will simply resign. In Senate claims, the man will simply resign.
Because I mean,
Solomon, have you not seen a situation where 3 or 4 people were killed, and the Prime Minister had to leave? He says, "I'm sorry, I couldn't protect my people. It's my responsibility." No, but we don't do that here.
Because whenever the minister faces the press, maybe after every FEC meeting, you see him, the federal government, the National Executive Council, the president,
approve this,
yes,
and that.
for
and we
road,
don't see the impact of all those approvals.
Road transport, and one begin to ask, what happens to the other means of transportation?
Especially the rail and the waterways.
Water.
Okay, look at what happened in the rail sector the other day. The railmen and all of that. We had somebody, Okweifa, come to take responsibility. He said, "I'm sorry for what happened, and we are making amends to ensure that it doesn't happen again." That is what I call responsibility. But I also talked about shared responsibility. As a traveler, why will you, in your right senses, get into a boat that you see that is clearly overloaded without life jacket?
Probably because of the situation. I mean, from the reports we get, they were running from bandit attack, and then it's more like the middle of the devil and the deep blue sea, as it were.
Okay. In that situation, now you have to blame the governor for not being able. And I'm happy that we are talking about this, because there's also something in the news about certain governors. Zamfara State, Dawda Lawal, saying, "Look, I know what to do."
Yeah, we will talk about that.
So yes, I know we'll talk about that. But so it boils down to issue of who should we hold responsible for insecurity, for the banditry that is going on, that has enveloped, that is ravaging certain sections of this country.
Now, still talking about taking responsibility, I keep asking, and via this fora and so many other fora, whenever I talk, what is National Orientation Agency doing? The agency has become redundant the past 10-15 years. I mean, as you said, I remember growing up where it's not just about relying on the media for announcement. You see town criers, you see communities, ringing bells, giving information. Okay. You see flyers in Yoruba language, in Igbo language, in Hausa language, everywhere for different, for different information. And then with this story now, you have the National Orientation Agency said that they want to start mounting nationwide sensitization campaign to raise awareness on the safety measures, when using inland waterways.
Okay, they want to start.
They want to start.
Okay,
now.
They want more Nigerians to die before they start. When you talk about National Orientation Agency, that agency is clearly it has its work, cut out for it, because they most times they don't keep abreast with development. Like you talked about growing up, you to hear town criers and in different languages and all of that. Now society has evolved, and because society remains dynamic. We are in the age of technology, so you even have the opportunity, you have the advantage, take advantage of the technology to deploy more facilities so that you can reach more people.
But you still can't underestimate those, because like talking about a lot of these communities, a lot of them probably don't have access to social media.
Okay. How about those that have access to social media? You have access to social media. Do you get to see what the NOA is saying? And let me tell you, the National Orientation Agency, as small as it could be, has offices in 704 local government areas in this country. So their coverage is very wide. But what do? Instead of taking on their core mandate, their full responsibility, I see them most times, trying to defend the policies of this government instead of sensitizing value creation, reoriented people on our value system, the values that we cherished as Africans. They don't do that. In fact, start telling you they start defending the economic policies of this government, which is not their command.
In other words, every agency of doing what the APC government is doing, just to plain politics instead of governance.
Exactly the point. Trying to promote, and sometimes the Minister of Information. Do I sympathize with him, or do I pity him, or do I even envy him? Because the man just sits in his office and people are doing his work for him.
I mean, the bar is pretty much low when you consider we had Lai Mohammed, in the last dispensation.
Oh, was he a good one? I'm not sure. He wasn't a very good.
That's what I say. The bar is quite low. Where you have a Lai Mohammed that did more of that. More people. A lot of people will say did more misinformation than actually being an information minister.
He was serving a purpose. I have a lot of problem with the way the people that handle the communication aspect of governance in this country. They don't even do a good job of it. And they say, okay, Chukwuma says the president's economic policies are not making headways. Instead of addressing what Chukwuma said, you have the president's spokesperson say that Chukwuma failed his WAEC. It doesn't answer the question about the economic policies of the government. It doesn't. So that is what they do. Instead of defending, and Peter B says, look, statistics don't count. They say, he wants to overthrow the government. Or that he built a brewery instead of building a factory in Anambra State. That doesn't solve the problem he raised. So the people that defend government don't even do a good job of it, if you ask me. So that boils down to what the NOA and the Ministry of Information, they are doing.
Let's use that as a segue to the next topic for discussion, where obviously Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal declared that he has the capacity to end banditry in the state within 2 months if given direct control over security agencies. And of course, the APC in Zamfara State reacted to this, saying that the Zamfara State Governor has failed. And that's a very some weird thing to say when you consider that the country is again at another height of insecurity issues. I mean, the insecurity peaked in 2015, and when Boko Haram was running rampant, and it was looking like the insecurity was coming down a little. I mean, it didn't stop. And we remember some people have come out to say, well, Boko Haram were just taking a break. They are reinforcing. And then that's exactly what happened, because they came out in every shapes and sizes, bandits, Fulani headsmen, and more like an Hydra head. And right now we are in the midst of another height of insecurity, coupled with the economic situation. And one would have expected that when a governor of a state come out to make statement like this, the federal government should be able to liaise with him as like, okay, you can do this in 2 months. How should we help you? Because we need all the help we can get.
No, okay. Now, Solomon, you have raised a lot of talking points. Now, starting from what you said that in 2015 insecurity peaked. I'm not sure insecurity peaked at that time because it was just starting then, compared with what we know now. I mean, Jonathan and Ihejirika were able, to keep it in check as at that time, until some elements started saying, look, people are killing my people. They even made attempts, to take Ihejirika to ICC, on charges of violation of human rights and all of that. So that was just the beginning of insecurity, because we have seen more happened in the past 10 years of the Buhari and Tinubu administration. Now, what the governor said is quite revealing and it is quite telling. He's not alone on that. Some other governors had said that too. And the governor went ahead to say, look, because I'm not in control of the security apparatus in the state, do I have a guarantee that if I ask the state police commissioner to go after somebody, that he will? Do I have a guarantee that the brigade commander within my state, if I ask him, go after these people, I know their hideouts, that he will do that? They don't. Even the state director of DSS, all of them tell you that they have to get clearance from where? From Abuja.
Meaning they don't have the power to do that
So
at all.
the state governors just answer chief security officer in name.
And
in
then
actuality.
and then they get security allowance, what they call that, every month.
No. They get security votes and they use
Security vote, rather.
Yes, they use it to help what? You see them buying vehicles, trucks for policemen, for soldiers, for civil defense, and all of that. But that doesn't even guarantee that if you give the police commissioner 50 vehicles, that he's going to take orders from you. It doesn't. So they try. In fact, I pity most state governors. You know why? Because it's like you are trying to curry someone's favor. You are giving him, things like you are buying buses for him, you are buying vehicles and all of that. And when it gets to a head, when push comes to shove, you run to the same person and the same person tells you, unfortunately, please let me get approval, let me get directive from the Inspector General of Police. There are instances where governors have tried to quell crisis within their state, and the CP tells them, I'm sorry, sir, let me get approval from the IG. Solomon, you and I, we know, Nigerians know this. So it brings to the fore the issue of state police. What do we do with the state police?
But whatever this, somehow, what has actually dominated discourse when it comes to state police is the fact that state governors will most likely abuse it.
Okay, the way the central government is abusing it.
So
because the central government
that tends to overshadow the need for state police.
When people raise this argument, I ask them, now that the central government is using the police, to wish on political opponents, have we disbanded the federal police? We have not. We have not. So, on a cost-benefit analysis mode, if out of the 36 state governors, we have like 12, 8 or some of them that will take advantage of the state police to wish hunt and go after opponents, and the other 26, the other 30 of them
will make good use of it.
So why don't
positively?
So why don't we follow that track? I don't buy that argument that, like I said, when I ask people, now that the central police is using it against the opposition, have we disbanded the police?
And then,
we have not.
And then, interestingly, President Muhammadu Buhari, yesterday or 2 days ago, Tinubu talked about his preference for state police, and one will be asking, what is it doing about it?
I think the president is being economical with the truth as far as the issue of state police is concerned, because I've had to ask this question. As a state governor, as an activist before he became governor, he was upbeat about we need the state police in Nigeria. That is the only way. When insecurity was at the lowest ebb, even when we didn't have this terror thing, when it was a matter of, criminal law enforcement, these people are still in here, somebody broke into one's house and all of that. The current president, as an activist then, was very upbeat on we need state police. Now, when he became governor, he mounted it. It was a sing-song for him. We need state police. As an opposition governor, we need state police.
His activism is well documented.
Well documented about state police. Now,
about many things, actually.
I'm telling you. And now when he became the national leader of the party that took over from the PDP, Solomon, for 8 years, the APC didn't talk about state policing. Meanwhile, they crested to power with that mantra of fighting corruption, state police, and all of other things, and fighting insecurity. Now, when he became president, Nothing. And suddenly, by January this year, we heard that the 36 state governors met and agreed collectively that was the best way to go, state police, left for FCT minister. And the governors had the opportunity to talk about it at the National Economic Council meeting, supervised by the vice president. On 2 occasions, they left it out and talked it down the agenda list. And when they were asked after deliberations of 4 hours, they said, "Oh, we were tired, we couldn't talk about state police." Now the same people will come out and tell you, it's because we are not in control of the state police, that is why there's insecurity, or that's why insecurity is thriving in our domain.
So they've made a very simple topic, they made it very complicated.
Very complicated. And how does it go? Just agree the president should send an executive bill to the National Assembly, amend the Police Act.
And that's bring my next question. Unfortunately, there is no time, so we just need a few seconds to answer that. Now, we've talked about constitutional review a lot, and the National Assembly, the last we checked, they've had this regional arrangement of constitutional review. Now, in the midst of so many things that need center stage and priority, for example, state police for insecurity and election reform for our election, how do you think the constitutional reform will go? Do you think we need like a holistic constitutional reform, as in one sitting, or before the whole general constitutional review, we need some priority reforms to take place?
Yes, I think we need some priority reforms, some priority amendments, like Buhari did. Buhari, in all his infamy, had pattern shots, pattern gifts to Nigeria. Before he left, he ensured that the constitution was amended so that some matters in the exclusive legislative list, like railway, like prisons, like power generation, was moved from the exclusive
to
and put in the concurrent, so that states and the federal government could at the same time handle all of those things. We didn't need to shut down Nigeria and call a constitutional conference, national conference, and amendment and all of that. So we can do them in bits and pieces.
So in other words, if this federal government really meant business, business in terms of insecurity and election reform, like in the next 1 month, it can be done.
When they changed the national anthem, did you and I hear about it? If they are intentional in doing good, if they are sincere in doing good, it doesn't take time, it doesn't take effort, they can do it.
Unfortunately, we have to end it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Okoro. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Solomon. My pleasure, any day.
That's Chukwuma Okoro talking to us, analyzing the news at 12. And for a quick look at what's going on in our international news, U.S. President Donald Trump will sign an executive order on Friday that directs the Department of Defense to be known as the Department of War. The move would restore a name the agency last held in the 1940s, and according to the text of the order, the main aim is to project strength and resolve. The department will initially use the new name as a secondary title, while the administration seeks congressional approval to make the change permanent. The White House is yet to say how much a rebrand will cost, but U.S. media expect $1 billion price tag for the overhaul of hundreds of agencies, emblems, email addresses, and uniforms. The Department of Defense, DoD, which oversees the U.S. Armed Forces, is the successor to the War Department, which was first established as a cabinet-level agency in 1789 and existed until 1947. The order says Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will be known as Secretary of War. It instructs him to recommend and include legislative and executive actions to move towards a permanent renaming of the department. The responsibility of creating an executive department rests with the U.S. Congress. In August, Trump told reporters he was confident Congress would support the idea if their support was needed. Democratic Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey said the renaming was a childish idea, adding, "Americans want to prevent war, not tout them." The Department of War was established by George Washington but was rebranded following World War II. And finally on sport, former world champions Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather are set to compete in an exhibition bout next year. The events will which will be put on by CSI Sport and Fights Sports, but details regarding the date, location, broadcasters and rules are yet to be announced. Tyson, age 59, is a former undisputed heavyweight champion, while Mayweather, age 48, retired undefeated after 50 fights, winning multiple titles across a number of weight classes. Tyson is competing for the first time since ending his 19-year retirement in November in a controversial defeat by Jake Paul. He spent the entirety of his career, which yielded 50 wins from 59 fights at heavyweight, while the later stages of Mayweather's career were at welterweight. Mayweather, who has won titles across 5 weight classes, has competed in a number of exhibition bouts since retiring in 2017, with his last outing coming against John Gotti III last August. Final winners and formal winners are not usually declared in exhibitions, and the results do not count towards their either fight's career record. And just before we go, here again are the top stories. As Muslims worldwide celebrate Eid al-Mawlud, Khan urges leaders to embrace justice and ease hardship. Federal government mourns Niger boat accident victims with pledges for support. Tinubu approves 1.85 billion naira for education and rehabilitation of rescued Chibok girls. Zamfara governor claims he can end banditry in 2 months, while APC alleges criminal ties. On international news, Trump seeks to rebrand the Department of Defense as Department of War. And in sport, Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather agree to fight in 2026 exhibition match. And that's the World News at 12. I am Solomon of M. Do follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at VOP903FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening. Once again, I am Solomon of M.
Welcome to the best exclusive radio station, VOP 1903.